Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Say It Like You Feel It. My name is Nadia. This is my homegirl, Ori. And we're going to get into this episode of talking about the four most powerful concepts that we learned in interpersonal communications class for this semester. Without further ado, let's get into it. So, the four concepts that I've chosen are emotions and emotional intelligence, listening, mission statement, and how they shape who we are, and verbal and nonverbal communication. By the end of this video, you will understand how these all work together and can shape you to not only be a great communicator, but also a better person. The first concept is emotions and emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is our ability to recognize, understand, and manage our own emotions, along with recognizing and influencing others' emotions. According to the textbook by Anonymous, emotions are physiological, behavioral, and communicative reactions to stimuli that are cognitively processed and experienced as emotion. These emotions we learn to express through observation, trial and error, and through occasional explicit guidance. So, why does this matter? This matters because it is the foundation of all good communication. When we're emotionally aware, we can express ourselves clearly without letting our emotions control us. Without that awareness, we react instead of respond. According to the textbook by Anonymous, our social bonds are enhanced through emotion sharing because the support we receive from our relation partners increases our sense of closeness and interdependence.
I guess a time when I struggled deeply with having emotional intelligence in conflict, specifically personal conflicts between me and my parents. I guess I was the type of person in my early adolescence to shut down and conceal my emotions. Um, I wasn't very much a upfront, confronting, um, typical person. I was more of a just shut everyone out, lock the doors, and cry on the inside, which can I can see from the other person's perspective puts them in a lot of confusion and stress. Doesn't really give opportunity for communication to give a an example of how I would feel I would like to be treated, or how I feel I had been done wrong, or how I feel I have done wrong. And I guess learning through experience that communication is the key factor into resolving um, personal conflicts, especially with people that you love and care about. I feel like a lack of communication is the downfall for a lot of personal relationships of mine. Um, and yeah, emotional intelligence is a key factor into understanding how to communicate with specific people. Certain people communicate differently. Um, and emotional intelligence kind of helps you decipher how people like to be confronted and how people see solutions as valid, or how what makes them feel comfortable, what makes them feel seen, what makes them feel heard. Sometimes you just have to have the emotional intellect, take the time to understand people's behaviors and habits and needs, emotional needs, and it opens room and opportunity for having good communication and salvaging relationships.
According to Daniel Goleman, who popularized emotional intelligence, people with higher EQ, aka emotional intelligence, tend to have stronger relationships, better mental health, and more success at work because they handle emotions so skillfully instead of impulsively. The next concept is listening. We'll go over the barriers, stages, and the strategies. Now, listening isn't the same as hearing. It's an active process made up of five stages. And according to Dr. Brewster, those five stages are receiving, which is hearing the message, understanding, which is making sense of that message, evaluating, which is judging the message, and responding, which is giving feedback. And the last one is remembering, and that is retaining what the information that was said. So, some barriers that you can come across when it comes to listening are distractions. your surroundings, loud noises, people walking through or interrupting the conversation. Personal biases, that's a big one. Somebody that always wants to be right or always has to include their opinion instead of just listening and understanding and giving feedback. Emotional triggers are another thing, especially when you don't realize them and you might tend to blame the other person instead of like reflecting on yourself. And the last thing I want to say is that's really simple is just like waiting for your turn to speak and listening, really active listening instead of just listening to respond.
So, some active listening strategies, they include paraphrasing what other people say. So, maintaining eye contact and using nonverbal cues, such as, nodding your head, showing engagement, making eye contact, forward, um, body positions. Yeah, the active way of listening. Listening matters in a lot of circumstances and relationships. Why does it matter? Listening is a part of life and it builds trust. And when people feel heard, they feel respected and are more likely to open up and trust you. So, and that's a core part of every healthy relationship.
One example that I would give for this concept is once I consciously started applying these stages, I realized I was interrupting people more than I thought I was. Now I focus on actually hearing the message before reacting or putting my 2 cents in. And it's helped me avoid misunderstanding and showing people I genuinely care about what they have to say. And I think that's important in interpersonal communications when you want to create like a safe space for people. It involves actually hearing them, actually paying attention and being present in the moment. And now that's something I value. The next concept we'll dive into is personal mission statement and how it shapes who you are. Now, to me, a personal mission statement is basically a short statement or summary of your values, goals, and purpose. It's the kind of thing that guides your actions and how you communicate. Now, why does this matter? This matters because when you know what you stand for, you communicate them way more clearly and confidently. It gives you a direction even when emotions and outside opinions try to throw you off. Now, these types of interferences are known as noise, which is anything that interferes with the accurate transmission or reception of a message, according to Dr. Brewster.
So, my personal mission statement is to communicate with honesty and empathy so that I can inspire connection and understanding with other people. So, when I'm in situations that frustrate me, like when someone misunderstands my intentions or my words, I remind myself of that specific mission. So, it helps me to slow down, not be impulsive, and to choose my words intentionally before I speak and focus on connection rather than being always correct.
And I'd like to link this to interpersonal communications by saying that a personal mission statement, it really shapes your identity and reminds you of who you are and your self concept and your emotional responses. It's the compass that keeps your communication consistent with your values, your morals, your goals. And it's important to be knowledgeable of that and who you are. And remind yourself every day if you need to, because sometimes we get lost in the sauce. The last concept that we're going to touch base on is verbal and nonverbal communication. Now, verbal communication is what we say. Of course, it's words. It's how humans communicate, whether that be in our tone or our language choice. Nonverbal communication is literally everything else: gestures, facial expressions, eye contact. I said body language, and definitely even silence. Now, why does this matter? Research shows that the most meaning in communication actually comes from nonverbal cues. So you can say I'm fine, but if your tone or posture says otherwise, people can sense that truth. This concept traces back to a man named Dr. Albert M, because I cannot pronounce his last name, so we'll just use M, a psychology professor at UCLA. And according to the textbook, verbal communication helps us shape our attitude about our world.
So I once noticed that I'd tell someone that I was not mad, but I would I would just I would look away. I wouldn't maintain eye contact. I'd cross my arms. I'd have a very closed off body language and a very passive aggressive demeanor. And learning to match my nonverbal communications with my actual message made my conversations much more honest and effective. So, yeah. So, when I'm upset, I say that I'm upset because my body says I'm upset. And when I'm listening, my body is in a listening position in order to receive information.
I just like to give a quick tip about verbal and nonverbal communication. I think it's important that we are aware of our body language, our tone, and our facial expressions because they often speak louder than words.
So, in conclusion, emotional intelligence helps us to understand ourselves better, and listening helps us to understand others.
Additionally, our mission statement grounds who we are. Verbal and nonverbal communication helps us express that identity to the world. These four concepts connect like puzzle pieces. Each one strengthens the other. Thanks for watching. Tune in to the
Thank,
next episode.
thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on.